So when I picked up my daughter after the second day of school, she said that someone had shoved her at the slide. So my first instinct was, to get as many uh, details in terms of what happened with her so that we can approach this in the correct manner. Now, she's only in grade 1 and this is the second day of school. So I'm kind of thrown off because I'm just picking her up from school and she's doing this. She's running through the scenario in her head again. She's like, and she's playing that in her head because that's what she witnessed when someone shoved her. So I'm like, okay, well, this is leaving an impact on her. So we definitely need to approach it in a manner which is going to be healthy for her. So, asking like, do you know this girl or this person? What's their name? What happened? Did you make her upset? And so I'm just asking as much detail as possible to make sure that, I have a clear picture in terms of, were you the issue or was, something else at hand the issue? Or the other person was the issue. I told her, welcome to grade 1. This is going to be part of your reality until pretty much maybe when you're 18. Because there's going to be bullying in school. There's going to be shoving. And I said, there's kids out there which don't have the words. And when they don't have words, they're going to be physical with you. And I said the same thing with her. This is why we're so adamant that you learn how to communicate. Because as soon as you run out of words, you're going to get physical. And I think she sort of understood that, okay, yeah, I gotta make sure I can communicate myself. But at the same time told her, look, if you try to communicate and nothing happens, or you tell a teacher and things continue to persist, then you got to keep your distance away. I said, maybe you got to push back sometimes because unfortunately that's the reality of things. That's really frowned upon, kids pushing back, but because they're kids, they lack communication, they lack words to express themselves, and it's going to come out physically. I think as parents, we have to kind of let our kids know that this is our reality that we live in, is like, words are great. It's the ideal scene to communicate and to express yourself. But sometimes maybe people from a different culture have different approaches. Maybe this child was from a different country and they don't know the words to express themselves in English or in the language that my daughter knows. So, when other parents are asking me, so how's your kid's first day of school? I mean, unfortunately, I told them like this, got a little bit pushed around a little bit, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the parents said, well, it's good. Then now you could teach your kid how to defend themselves. And I kind of thought about that. I was like, maybe not yet. Because in the best case scenario, I'm going to teach my daughter how to defend herself. She's not going to get hurt, and maybe she's going to hurt another kid. I wouldn't want that to happen either way. Even if my daughter got hurt by another kid, I think for just turning the other cheek and walking away and just kind of letting that go is good. For me personally, I got grown up being bullied around a little bit too. And, that sucked. I don't know why. Maybe I got one of those faces that people want to take a swing at. Who knows? In any case, I think it actually helped me grow up to be more empathetic, to understand how people feel when they get bullied, when they get picked on, and understanding that some people just have lack of control. That's going to be reality, whether you're a kid or an adult. You just got to understand that this is part of life. And when you understand that how people feel, and you can empathize, you can play the understanding game afterwards. You say, hey, look, this person doesn't know what they're doing. I got to deal with it. And learning to process that emotion without resorting to violence, I think is very powerful. Because when you eventually go into the professional world, and if someone treats you or mistreats you in a way that, it's making your job difficult, you're going to have to brush that off your shoulder quickly, because you can't take that emotion and carry it through to the next person in the day or the next task in the day. You got to learn how to let that go quickly. Because if you don't, then it's going to be very difficult moving forward. You're just going to continue to, carry around luggage. It's going to get heavier and heavier. So, with that said, love to teach my child self-defense. I mean, I am a self-defense instructor, teach martial arts, and I do teach her the fundamentals and the basics. But to have my child understand violence at this point, I think it's not necessarily healthy. I think it's going to be detrimental for other kids. So yeah, I'm gonna maybe let her get picked on by a little bit longer before we kind of say, okay, look, you know what? This is not stopping either through your words, through your communication. It's not stopping because the teachers can't help you at school, and if you have to take things in your own hand, then we're going to take it up a few notches, and hopefully you can defend yourself without hurting someone too badly. Because I don't want my daughter to hit someone in the head, God forbid. Maybe a punch in the gut, I don't know. But at the same time, yeah, other parts of me say, hey, you know what, kid? Keep some sand in your pocket, throw in their eyes and, cunt punt them and run away. Because when they get sand in the eyes, they don't know if you did it or not. I don't know. Terrible, isn't it? That's the other side of me that's thinking, like, this is how my daughter should be trained to approach these things. And, I think for you to have the capacity for violence, but to have that restraint and discipline not to execute it is allows you to have self-control. It's a sign that you have self-control. And yeah, let's keep that in mind, everyone, that we are the example, and we gotta live by example for these younger ones. And as much as my daughter knows that, I do engage in, sparring and combat and all that stuff, I am not doing that at all in the streets. It's not worth it, only because, I have dependents. I have to take care of kids. What happens if I engage in someone on the street and it just escalates to a degree where I can't handle it? Now my dependents, my children, they have an incapable father, and I can't take care of them. I can't drive them around. I left them stranded. They could run into traffic and, get hurt. So just taking a deep breath and just say, well, it doesn't come to that degree and I don't need to escalate things to a higher degree, then sometimes just take the L. Who cares? Just move on, take a deep breath, and find modalities that you can de-stress. It doesn't necessarily have to do with martial arts. You do meditation, you can do some sort of mindfulness exercises. You have to find something outside of violence so that you can keep yourself, very level-headed in your everyday life, because things are gonna add up and it sits in your subconscious and it's gonna fester there if you don't do anything about it. So you need to treat your mind like a garden. Got to de-weed it on the frequent so that whatever you want to plant intentionally as a positive thing in your life can grow without being impeded on. All right, so continuing part 2. I forgot to mention this in the other video, but on the first week of school, on the last day, on the Friday, my daughter was, she forgotten her hat, and we sent her in to get her hat, before leaving the school. And on her way out, she got pushed by another girl. I didn't see it direct, but I think my wife did. And so my wife was a little bit on point and asking, like, who's that girl? Who's that girl with the, the curly hair and stuff like that? And what's her name? Is she in your class? Et cetera, et cetera. So we started to have like a better clue as, okay, is this child the one that shoved my daughter the first time by the slide? But at the same time, if she's getting shoved twice in 1 week on the first week of school, my daughter's the common denominator. Maybe she's doing something that's irritating others that she doesn't know about. Maybe she has a quirk that is irritating other people, because she is on the spectrum, and sometimes she's not that mindful in terms of how she's behaving or how other people perceive what she's doing. And also my younger daughter, so she's 3 years old and she's gone to JK, and she's saying her friend either squeezed her hand too hard or hit her in the head. And I was like, okay, why? What happened? And she can't articulate what happened, but she's telling me these things are happening. So also my youngest daughter is the common denominator of being, into little physical altercations. All right, so maybe it's my kids, maybe it's my genetics. I gotta take that responsibility, but I will also take the responsibility to train the kids properly and make sure that they can handle themselves in that situation and walk away with saying, hey, you know what? That's a bad moment in the day, but it does not make the day ruined. So I just wanted to say that for everyone out there that goes through bad moments, it's not a bad day, it's just a bad moment, okay? All right.